When we talk about, scaling brands when we talk about growing rather the hospitality industry, we always need to think about also scaling the brands and not staying at the same level and plateauing. So there's certain strategies that we can utilize in order to do that. And the next speakers are going to dive into those strategies, saying, I always think in conferences, we don't lack conversation. We lack things that we can take away to actually implement to grow the industries. If you Google how many conferences are happening all the time, it's not the conversation, it's the action. So they're going to speak to us about the action and the strategies that we can implement in order to scale brands. So please welcome to stage the moderator, Rishabh Thapar. A round of applause, please.
Paul, if I can ask you to join me, we will skip the introductions. I'm Rish from HVS. Paul is the CEO for Accor in MEA. I think we're nicely queued up for this conversation based on what's been discussed over the last few sessions. And it's exciting to have the conversation with you, Paul, because of the person you are and the brand you represent. When we think of scaling brands, it's also about scaling the hospitality industry as a whole. And I think there are a few different things happening. Africa is still developing with destinations and diversity across so many markets. And Accor has so many different brand personalities within itself. And then the international traveler is also looking for more experience, and they identify with themselves as certain travelers with certain brands. So, with all these variables, how do you actually, define a strategy for, scaling these brands?
Yeah, thanks, Rishabh. Great to be here. And thanks to our saxophone player. She's doing a great job today. The Kenny G version of Africa. She's doing a great job. Look, brands, first of all, I'm going to talk about Africa, just sub-Saharan Africa. I know there's not too many people from Egypt, so if there are, I don't mean to offend you. It's just an easier conversation to have. The brand development generally is done from a global point of view. Let's put that aside. And that's generally the same for all chains, if we like to use that word, or big hotel groups, as we used to like that word. But the reality is nowadays that we really want brands to have local personalities. In the old days, it was try and industrialize everything, make everything the same. It doesn't matter where it is in the world. Every customer wants to look the same. These days, everyone wants an individual experience. So while we have certain brand standards that we want to ensure go through the hotel, whether they're physical, whether they're environmental, whether they're personal, we certainly want every guest that comes into our hotel, and not just Accor, this is all groups, that we want them to have a local experience. We want them to understand, them to take away that local touch of Rwanda, of Namibia, of South Africa. That's what we need, that's what people demand. And our brands now are becoming a lot more flexible to ensure that experience actually exists. So when we talk about geographical strategy, I have a lot of arguments with my team about this, because we talk about strategy, but we're really opportunistic, because we don't dictate where hotels are built. We give advice, and we like to think we can persuade people to do it, but the reality is we're not a hotel owner. We help hotel owners, most definitely. We're part of that process, but our strategy is we like this brand here and that brand there. We really follow the market, what is the development going to happen, and we can influence, but we don't actually dictate that. When we talked, you mentioned brand personalities, and I love that word, because that's how we look at our brands as well, as individual personalities, because it's a lot easier to describe to anyone that's listening, and a developer, a bank, anyone, rather than going through lists of what you get when you walk into a room that's branded. So those brand personalities really have to fit in with where the development is or where the hotel is. There's no use us putting a brand that we thought, a strategy said we needed this brand there. That brand doesn't fit there. It's never going to be successful in that market for a bunch of different reasons, whether it's, it's a resort brand, we're putting it in a corporate location, et cetera, et cetera. So that brand personality, first of all, has to geographically fit in with what suits the business, either potentially now or in the future. And we look at brands in two ways. There's a brand filler and there's a brand, and there's a market developer. So the brand filler is there's already a strong market. We think we can build a hotel there, and the current market's going to absorb that supply. The demand maker is that we think that brand and that hotel can actually start a destination, and we can start building that destination. That destination does not have to be a resort destination. It could be a new part of a city. It could be a sub-market where the city's decided they'll gentrify this area or they'll change it to a sporting hub, and we see a potential there for, say, a lifestyle hotel or an economy hotel or a luxury hotel, although Trevor told us that we have enough of those coming into Africa at the moment. But the personality has to fit, first of all, the geographical location, the future business plan, and of course the owner's desires, because that always is a big play there too.
No, and I think that reflects in your strategy. You know, West Africa has a lot of core brands, a lot of French connection, business hotels, and then you have completely different brand personalities within Cape Town, which kind of the location can vary from street to street. So yeah, I mean that's good, and I'm curious, how what it is like to work with someone like Casada. Accor has always broken the model, gone into aviation in India, or Ennismore, or investing now, which is the best way because funding seems to be the big problem. And I'm curious what that discussion with Accor is, because it's still aggressive private equity investor coming into the market, very knowledgeable, high goals and targets. And what is that discussion like with Accor? Is it, are you arguing with yourself in the room a lot, or how do you come to decisions?
I'm just checking if there's anyone from Casada in the audience before I answer that. I think I'm pretty safe. Oh, there's some. Look, the reality, and the short answer is because we're short on time, but Casada is an extremely professional and revolutionary owner, I guess you would say, in Africa. They've taken risks and tried to establish this market and a cross-section of geographies and brands. There's not a lot of other people can do that or have tried to do it with gusto as they have. Certainly we're a small investor in that, but those conversations are the same as any owner. In fact, more so, because they're very experienced and obviously knowledgeable within Accor and as a developer and as an operator. So they're very robust. And that's a discussion from location, from brand, to how we operate it, how we can co-brand it. Do we put Wojo in there as a co-working space? So there's plenty of opportunity for robust discussions, but it's a healthy, but we do test each other's relationship, yes.
No, I mean, it's great that you have that, because conversions itself is a lot of heartache and headache and capital investment. And in terms of greenfield projects, what are you seeing? Trevor spoke about the big pipeline, but in your opinion, what has worked for you guys looking at greenfield projects?
I think we've all got better as time has gone on. We haven't been, while we've been in Africa for a long time, this is a new style of growth for us, I guess you could say, particularly in a conversion world. And, as we all know, there's a lot of logistical challenges, and particularly when you're doing multiple refurbishments, multiple repositionings, all at the one time in a bunch of different countries. So you've got different challenges at all at the same time. So my comment is we're getting a lot better at it. And I like the comment from one of the financiers before that said, if you don't start in line with the investor or the hotel operator, depending on which side you are, and you don't have the same goals, and those goals aren't aligned, you're going to be in trouble every step of the way, from a design to a development to an opening to an operating. And really, every time you become in conflict, you're wasting time on looking at that end goal, which is making that hotel or that business successful. So that alignment, I know it's a bit of a word that's thrown around a lot, but gee, I couldn't emphasize enough how important that is. Because our relationship's like a marriage. We're going to be together for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, like a marriage, but generally it's a long-term relationship. So let's get those parameters really, really clear at the onset.
Yeah, I mean, and just besides the funding discussion, or besides the other challenges that we've been discussing, we often speak about human resources as a big area of development, and we need to upskill, etc. But what is a brand like Accor, because ultimately the responsibility is with the big brands too, and we can no longer have that mentality that we train someone and Marriott picks them up, or the other brand takes them up. Well, I mean, what can we do, or what is Accor doing on the ground to kind of pull that up? And do you think it's good to start charging owners, say take some of that sales and marketing fee and put it into as skill development fee, perhaps?
Yeah, look, I'm just one of the comments you picked up. Do we get angry when we train people and they go away to another operator or another business? Yeah, well, I always look, what happens if we don't train them in the interim? So to us, we're here to change people's lives, and that's what our industry does generally. We give people opportunities that may not have opportunities in the market. We all give people opportunities to grow and have a wonderful, much better life than they may have if they hadn't have joined our industry. I think a good example of what a brand, or at this point Accor, can bring is if you look at this conference and the aviation conference last week. The general manager here is actually on task force from Ghana at the moment, so she's running 2 hotels. A number of her HODs are here, and they've been coming and going to prepare for this event for the last month or 2 months probably. So then we'll take, okay, there's another task force. So the people in that task force are absolutely honoured for us to ask them to leave their native country, to go across borders, to fly somewhere else, because we appreciate their skills, and then they grow their skills in this sort of environment. That's priceless to grow the local market here, because they're gaining skills from our Ghanesian team, and then obviously the team that goes back to Ghana of going, you wouldn't believe what we learnt, etc., etc. So, there's so many layers of that experience and that commitment we have to training and furthering people's lives that we probably haven't got time to do it today, but one living example is the team that we have right here, right now, making this work.
Yeah, and you can see it. I mean, Deborah's done a great job in getting in her task force to get us together, and it's all wonderful. I'm going to leave you. I think we're trying to make up for time, but one question I have to ask you as someone who's from Accor. What is your favorite Accor brand? And what is your favorite non-Accor brand that you would want in your stable?
Okay, politically, of course, Movenpick, because we're sitting in the middle. Aspirationally, I was saying Orient Express. You've never stayed in an Orient Express hotel, because there aren't any, but there will be some. But we've got fantastic trains coming in 26. We've got ships 225 metres long, and we've just signed the most amazing collaboration deal with LVMH, Louis Vuitton, to co-brand most of our businesses with Orient Express. Fantastic. One of the other brands, I'm going to answer that in twofold. Probably Citizen M at this stage. I think I'd love to have that in our team. Really good innovators, really solid business model, really like that. And W Hotels in the first 10 years were fantastic and revolutionary.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Rishabh.